There we go. The ever-evolving T-ball schedule is quite something to see. You know, we're having to go live here at 3, mainly due to the fact I have no idea if they're going to call the game or not. They're supposed to be letting us know now, but nevertheless, we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Blake Ruffino. This is Are You Serious Sports? Hope all of you are making it a good one. We know that we are as well. LSU showed out this week or this weekend when it comes to the NFL draft. Cortez Hankton, maybe one of the best if you look at his draft. We'll talk about that as well. We'll break down the NFL draft, some of my final thoughts before we put that one to bed for final. We'll also talk about the transfer portal, as it is a very crucial week for the Tigers as they're hosting arguably one of the better defensive linemen in the transfer portal today. We'll touch on that, as I do think that this will be a very critical week for the Tigers. Not only the only position I do think that they need there, so we'll touch on that here today as well. Also, LSU takes the series against Auburn, has a chance to sweep, but is unable to finish. I'm sure I'll go on a tirade that some people won't like, but nevertheless, I hate that you couldn't sweep a series that, quite honestly, you should have swept. Now you go in this weekend against the number one team in the Texas A&M Aggies, and I had somebody send me some Rudy Poo-ness in reference to people saying that they believe that it's a foregone conclusion that, we could take 2 or 3 from A&M. Yeah, you could, but this team hasn't shown you that they could close yet. So that take is quite honestly dumb if you're going to be the person that does that. So we'll talk about that. Obviously, it's great to get a series win against any SEC team. I don't care who in the Rudy Poo it is. It's really good, but you should have swept. You're unable to. We'll talk about that as well. And at the end, because Carter Bryant not joining us today, he'll be joining us tomorrow. We will do your questions. So hashtag Ask Blake at the end. Thoughts, questions, concerns, you can bring them inside of the Rudy Crew chat. Corey Johnson says baseball needs a miracle. I don't know if they need necessarily, Corey, a miracle. What they need here is to just – I wouldn't call it a miracle, because – God willing, if they did beat Texas A&M, you still kind of already know that they have the talent at so many positions. Ashton Larson, Bear Jones is getting better. A lot of you freaked out on Michael Braswell. Not freaking out on him right now. So, patience. By the way, I think Braswell's back next year. So, Stephen Milam. They have pieces to where you can say, hey, would it shock people? Maybe. Would it send shock waves through not only the SEC? How about that? Canceled. So we go live at 3 because we got a game at 5:30, and then it's canceled. Maybe I should have waited 30 more minutes. But I can't wait 30 more minutes because we got to leave at 4:30 to – oh, boy. Oh, well. You're here. I'm here. Everybody's here. It is what it is. But the T-ball game just got canceled. All right. Bilbo Baggins says, we lost a lot of horses experience in 2023. Why are we surprised that this team isn't that deep and can't reload with insane amount of talent that left? He also said we lost 10 to 13 players, correct? Yeah, you lost 13. I think, Bilbo, was because, and this is not just an LSU thing, but we're not the only team that lost double-digit players that are still back up on the top. You know, Arkansas lost, I think, 10 or 11. Tennessee lost 9, I think, in total. So, yeah, I think that would be their complaint because of the portal, right? But I agree with you. In totality, yes. Yes. It is what it is, though. I mean, it is what it is. Look, I don't think you can win this weekend. I really don't think you can win this weekend. I think you're going to lose this weekend. I think that you have. I think you got to be cautious on being swept. And look, I'm just going to be real with you. You got. I mean, you got to take 2 or 3. I mean, your season's on the line, really, because I don't think you can sweep Ole Miss. I don't think you can sweep Alabama. So there, I mean, guys, let's just be truthful here. I mean, it's a must-win type of series. Corey says, I think beating A&M is going to be a major problem, but it's the hole we dug ourselves in. Let's go get it done. I hope that we can. BJ Thompson says, we aren't winning a natty in baseball. Is it football season yet? No, it is not. No, it is not. But we will continue to talk about baseball here. Bilbo says, Joe Bear, Dugas, Morgan, Cruz were not easily replaceable. I'm not disagreeing with you whatsoever. I'm just saying the argument you will face. I don't disagree. I don't remotely disagree. But you did go in the portal and get a lot of arms that you thought would be better than what they have been. I think that is the biggest thing you missed on. You know, you were counting on Justin Lohr. You were counting on Thatcher Hurd, right? Like preseason, a lot of people were counting on Thatcher Hurd, just the opposite of what really has happened. So, yes, I agree. You can't replace the Paul Skeens. You can't replace that experience. Again, I'm just giving you a devil's advocate rundown of it. Justin Lohr had a 1.3-something ERA last year. I mean, I would assume that Jay was expecting him or for him to be a massive addition to just his pitching rotation. So, yeah, I think it is what it is there. I think it is what it is. His other question said, did Jay Johnson pull pitchers as this fast last year? It feels like we're flying through the bullpen and have almost nothing left on Sunday. Well, I mean, you threw 2 guys on Friday. You threw 3 guys on Saturday. I mean, Bilbo, that's not a lot. I mean, you kept – here's what I'm going to say. I was going to wait to say this later on in the show, but I'll preface it here. Here's the truth. I don't really care that you gave up more than 5 runs on Sunday against Auburn. Here's what I care about. You're going to have to, at times in games, score more than 5 runs. I mean, you didn't have a good performance at the plate all weekend. What gets trampled by that is Pearson's walk-off, some of the homers that you hit. Guys, you got to be better all around as a team, and you're not better all around as a team. I know you won the series. I'm happy you won the series. I'm also frustrated that you had a chance to sweep and you couldn't. Now, here's another thing. A lot of people are like, why didn't Jay start Griffin Herring on Sunday? Well, Kate Anderson, quite honestly, was not that bad. I mean, you use the shift, you live by the shift, you die by the shift, and he's getting you 2 weak dribblers, I mean, really, to the 6-hole that get through that would have been a normal out, and he only gives up a run. So there are so many. I mean, the bad luck that this team has had, the inconsistency at coming up at the plate and hitting when they need a base hit is just awful. It's been awful. It will continue to be awful. All right. We just got some some news here. Carter Bryant's going to be joining us at 3:30. I thought we were going to push him to tomorrow, but we're gonna bring him in here today. So good for us. Good for us. Yeah, these T-ball schedules, man, you never know what you're going to get. Like it's like a box of chocolates. All right, let's get rolling. Everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share. If you're on Facebook, share to all those groups, share to all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and notification bell wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate, review, and subscribe. I got to tell you, this new hat that I'm wearing could be having some news here soon. I got to be honest with you. This might be the most comfortable hat that I've ever worn. And you guys know how much I love hats. So be on the lookout for some news in the next couple of days. So that's all I'm saying. This hat is so comfortable. I can't take it off, man. It's like a Ferrari on my. How should I describe this hat that I'm wearing? It's like a blanket on my head. I mean, it fits comfortably. It feels great. Now I just got to straighten out the bill a little bit. You know how the Blakester likes it a little. So yeah. All right. Let's get rolling. Hit the like and share during the break. We're back next. Stay with us. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
Louisiana is unique. The food, the festivals, even the bugs. No, not mud bugs. Unwanted bugs like these. The ones you don't want crawling in your home or business. Trust the Shield from J&J Exterminating. We've been protecting Louisiana homes for over 50 years, earning the trust of our clients because we deliver what we promise. Protect your home from pests. Get the Shield from J&J Exterminating.
J&J Exterminating. Yeah. We're back.
All right. Yes, there's been a little change in the schedule here. Carter Bryant joining us in about 10 or 13 minutes here. So let's get rolling. We have no time to waste. This past weekend, or this past week, I guess Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but this past week, LSU was on full display when it comes to the NFL draft. Let me start off with this. I know I mentioned this last night on Ruffino and Joe show, but Cortez Hankton, have a draft, why don't you? The amount of guys or the amount of players that went into the draft that Cortez Hankton either coached, developed, and recruited and got drafted in the top 80 picks was absolutely insane. Starting with Georgia, A.D. Mitchell, Ladd McConkey, Jermaine Burton, who did wind up transferring to Alabama. That's neither here nor there, but actually beat out LSU for Jermaine Burton and got him to flip there late. But obviously having Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. a part of this draft is highly impressive for the co-offensive coordinator and wide receivers coach for LSU. Guys, I will continue to tell you this. When it comes to that position group, I'm not worried about that at all. Now, do you take a step back? Of course you take a step back. I mean, it's very difficult to replace Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. But there's a difference in living up to that versus having a really good wide receiver room. I think Chris Hilton is going to be a really good player for you next year, along with C.J. Daniels. And you know how much I like Kyron Lacey. The development at that position under the Brian Kelly tenure, in my opinion, arguably has been the best. Now, you talk about offensive line. That is a really good observation there as well with Brad Davis. But, guys, you're talking about an elite status with an elite coach doing things and it coming to fruition in the NFL draft. Now, in reference to the draft, you know how I feel. Jayden Daniels, to me, was the number one prospect in this year's class. I don't think it's close. I don't think it was remotely close. I don't like some of the antics that Caleb Williams possesses. I think that you saw even on just the ultimate big stage of the NFL draft, just some of the corny stuff that he does. It's not me. Now, I could be wrong in this. I could be a guy that's looking into something that I have, I might be wrong. But I think that starting on Thursday, LSU was headlined because there was so much built up about Jayden Daniels that when it came to fruition that your quarterback, your Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, went number 2, it gave everybody, and really and truthfully, everything that had been said about him, quite honestly, was false. I think that Jayden's going to have the better career because I do think that, ironically, what people don't want to talk about, they do have some really good weapons at Washington. Now, can they keep him upright? Can they continue to build on that offensive line? Can he get down, stay safe? That is going to be something that Jayden Daniels is going to have to do. I think he can do it. I think he was the best player in this year's draft. How do I want to say this? I think Malik Neighbors is up there with being the, or arguably the, best wide receiver in this year's class. Take your pick. And if we're just taking the LSU glasses off for a moment, to each his own. Arizona went with the bloodline and Marvin Harrison Jr. New York went with Malik Neighbors. I sit here and say this. I think of all three guys, and we'll talk about Brian Thomas and the Jacksonville Jaguars in just a moment. But to me, I think that he goes in arguably the most questionable situation, mainly due to the fact that Daniel Jones is his quarterback. And I think Malik is a guy that's going to show up for you every day. He's going to compete every day. And I don't know if Malik Neighbors struggles these first couple of years, I don't know if it's going to be on him. When you get drafted, it's all about situation. It's all about the current situation that you're in. And for me, I don't know how I like that situation for him. I was hoping he would go to Arizona because I do think Kyler's a better quarterback than Daniel Jones. But Saquon Barkley's not there, and I do think that they're going to have to throw the ball more than people are understanding at the current moment. So maybe it does benefit Malik Neighbors. Now, Brian Daboll is a really good offensive mind and offensive coach. Can he scheme? Can he get the ball out very quickly to Malik Neighbors because he's the best yak wide receiver in this year's class? Let's hope that it pans out. But the last time that the Giants took a wide receiver in round 1 from LSU, it bowed out well for him, and they probably should have kept Odell even with some of his crazy antics, punching a kicking net. Who gives a Rudy Poo? Odell was pretty freaking good. Let's hope it plays out for Malik. Bryant Thomas Jr. at 23 to Jacksonville. I think right now, day one, all at the jump, is arguably and probably is the best fit of the 3 in the first round. Guys, you can think what you want about Trevor Lawrence. He got hurt last year. He tried to come back. It didn't bode well for him. But you look at a guy like Brian Thomas going to Jacksonville. I think Doug Peterson's a really good coach. I think he's a really good offensive coach. And he's pairing up with a really good quarterback. The question becomes, look, Jacksonville has had moments where they've struggled offensively under Doug Peterson, but they've had guys that made it to a playoffs with Doug Peterson as well. I think he's the ultimate guy that can take the top off. You got Christian Kirk that's already there as well. they have a really good core and nucleus of young guys on that offense. It's a really good pickup. Really, really good pickup for Jacksonville. I think Bryant Thomas goes into a situation that is arguably the best right now. It's why Jacksonville was picking at 23. So I like that addition of Bryant Thomas. Let me say this before we get to before we wrap this up very quickly. Jacksonville must love them some LSU players. Now, Doug Peterson has deep Louisiana ties here, so he might know a little bit more than most about LSU. I told you this last Wednesday. I was not shocked that Mason Smith went in the second round. You and I had a discussion that there was a lot of chatter of him potentially moving himself into the first round, but he goes to Jacksonville in the second. Guys, good for Mason Smith. I think that if you look back on it, and he would probably agree with this, his LSU career, considering where we wanted it to be and how it wanted to be and how I'm sure he wanted it to be, was a little bit of a disappointment. And I don't mean that in the wrong way. Look, he didn't want to get hurt, right? Like, I mean, it wasn't on him that he wanted to get hurt, but even coming into last year at a high ankle sprain. But Gus was injured as a freshman, which a lot of people forget that he missed multiple games as a freshman from injury. I think it's a very high risk, high reward for Jacksonville. And I think that he's in a place where maybe he can develop because they don't necessarily at the jump need him. But I do think that he's in a place where he can get a little bit better, develop maybe through a year, and go that route. They also took Jordan Jefferson. I think Jordan Jefferson plays quicker, in my opinion, than Mason Smith does, because every team, and you can talk to any of your buddies that are scouts, you can talk to any of your buddies that are coaches, when you have a guy that can just go in on 2 downs and stop the run, guys, they're a dime a dozen. Block eaters is what they call them. I think that Jordan Jefferson can be in a place where he sees more early snaps and early downs for Jacksonville because he can eat at those blocks. I'm not saying Mason Smith can't, but we've seen it more from Jordan Jefferson. I like both of those guys going there. The ironic piece in all of this is that they're joining back up with Matt House. That's the worst part in all of this. I do think it's interesting, though. What are those conversations like in the hallway? You know, who knows if Matt House didn't vouch for them? Now, Matt House blocked half of the LSU fan base, so we'll never know because he's soft. I mean, guys, it's soft. I mean, I get hate mail all the live long day throughout the day. So what? People call for you being fired. You got a $2 million buyout. Suck it up, Buttercup. I don't mean that in the wrong way. Stop being a little pansy. Who knows, though, if Matt House gave or put in a good word for both of those guys. Maybe he did. I think clearly they asked. I mean, clearly they asked Matt House what he thought of those two guys. I would assume that he gave a pretty good assessment of those two because just the simple fact that they drafted them. So Jacksonville taking 3 LSU Tigers. I mean, just 3 teams, man. I mean, you got to be a Commanders fan now, a Bengals fan now. You got to be a Jacksonville fan now to some extent because there's so many guys on there. So, yeah, good for those 2 guys. Here is the biggest thing before we get to a little baseball, and I might have to push that because Carter Bryant's joining us in 2 minutes. And I am talking about baseball here, or will talk about baseball here today. I know that there was a lot of questions about Mekhi Wingo, and I had a lot of questions. I never remotely thought that Mekhi Wingo would fall as much as he did, but he did. And it's a shame. I do think that his medicals came vastly in play here. But Detroit did what Detroit does under Dan Campbell, man. I'm a Dan Campbell homer. I know he's a Texas A&M guy. I don't care. I am a Dan Campbell homer. They draft really good football players. They don't necessarily worry about the height, the size, the weight, the 40 time, the bench press. They go and draft football players. There's a reason they're a playoff team. Is because this is what happens when we evaluate players. This happens at the high school level. This happens at the college level. We look at the numbers. We look at how fast they run a 40. We look how big their broad jump or vertical is. We look at how big their bench press is. You can never change what somebody does on the field. Now, I hate that Mekhi fell that far. I know that he's got to be very frustrated. I have been told that his medicals were a massive concern, and that is why he fell. I also was told by someone in the NFL that they did not like what happened at the end of the year with the situation with Matt House. That's laziness on their part to say that because Matt House was a piece of shit. I'll say it. I mean, I'll call him what he is now that he's being petty to the entire fan base. He was a piece of shit. I don't care who knows it. So, happy for Mekhi Wingo. I think that Detroit got another steal there, and we'll see. But let me wrap this all up into one little bow here before we get to Carter Bryant. Guys, you had 3 defensive linemen drafted this past week in the NFL draft. The biggest weakness that you have on this LSU football team right now is on the defensive line. It is a very crucial week when you and I talk about the interior of this defensive line. Now, I do think it's ironic that it's the position group that you are hurting at the most that you had 3 guys drafted. Guys, you're fringing on being a 9-3, 10-2 team based off of one position. So, when you had that many guys drafted at one position and you have not been reloading there, it can be a massive issue. That is not having a D-line coach at a consistent basis is coming to a head now. A lot like what the offensive line was until Brad Davis got here. Now you just hope that Bo can rebuild it. It's going to take him time. He's not a miracle worker. And every LSU fan that says, oh, it's okay, we have Bo Davis. It's not just a Bo Davis thing. Bo's got to be involved. Baker's got to be involved. Kelly's got to be highly involved here. It doesn't fall just all on him. So you have arguably the number 1 interior defensive tackle in this spring window on campus right now. Can you close? We'll talk about it with Carter Bryant next. Let's get to a quick commercial. Let's get to a quick break. Carter Bryant, I'm glad he's joining us. I'm excited because we had a new, the game was on, then the game just gets canceled. And so, it's rough around here in these people's streets. Let's take a quick break. Carter Bryant joins us next. Stay with us. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Falls and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with the great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Falls has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements.
By the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Whether you've been injured in an accident, you're preparing for a future with your estate planning, you're getting ready to close in on a real estate deal, or you're about to welcome a new addition through adoption into your family, or you're facing criminal charges, You need very experienced attorneys, and that is what the Drake Williams Law Firm will be able to do for you in navigating the legal system. The door to their cozy office in historic downtown Ponchatoula has been open since 1981. They have helped thousands and thousands of Louisiana families and individuals win cases, close on real estate deals, and regain that peace of mind. Their lawyers over at the Drake Williams Law Firm, Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, are very determined, compassionate, and dedicated to their craft. It's the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. Tell them your good friend Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by.
J&J has protected Louisiana homes and businesses for over 60 years.
Call him today, make the pests go away. J&J Exterminating. Yeah.
Carter, the Power Bryant, thank you for being so generous, good sir, that we had to move the times up here. I greatly appreciate you doing that, my man. How are you doing today?
Ready for your son to hit for the cycle tonight, but life is great, man.
Game got canceled as soon as we started.
Oh, really? So, man, well, we are you gonna go live again tonight?
Probably Ruffino and Joe's show, but it just, it is what it is. We're living the dream here. We're living the dream.
It's good to be with you, man. Started the Believe in Saints thing.
Oh, how about that? Tell us about that. Yeah, you got a new podcast here.
Yeah, well, you got to go 2 times a week. You talked me into it, so if it sucks, it's your fault. Per normal, but you'll be making a guest appearances on there.
Kind of what my wife says too. If it's wrong, it's your fault.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I'm excited to try it out. I actually just released my statistical deep dive on Spencer Rattler. So if you want to check it out, you know what's funny is it just always works out like this. Spencer Rattler is actually the quarterback I watched the most in the pre-draft cycle because it was just
really why.
I just find him to be so interesting. Like there's so much. Also, there's so much analysis out there, Blake, on Drake May. I've obviously covered Jaden Daniels, every single one of his snaps. And there's so much analysis on Caleb Williams. So I was like, well, let me do something different and do film studies on my NFL channel on Spencer Rattler. And I just think he was just a fascinating guy. But yeah, I just released my full statistical podcast breakdown, Believe in Saints. So go check it out.
All right, so let's start with that, and then we'll get to some LSU stuff here in just a moment. Carter, can I tell you something that really pisses me off? How in the good God, Rudy Poo, can any of these teams say that the reason that he fell was because of his QB1 Netflix stuff? He's a high school kid.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Now, he's not the player that everybody projected him to be now. Okay, I see Saints fans slob-knobbing. Oh, he could replace Derek Carr. Well, be careful with that, okay? However, I think so. You've had guys like Alden Smith. I'll even use an LSU example. Lael Collins was in a murder investigation. All right? You've had so many different – for crying out loud, what's your boy Laramie Tunsil had a gas mask smoking God heavens knows what, and we want to talk about QB1 with a high school kid of why he fell. Grow up.
Yeah, Blake, I don't believe that that's the reason.
I can't believe it either.
Yeah,
I don't believe it either.
But I will say that NFL teams will do whatever to sink a kid's value so you can get him cheaper. It's just how it is, especially for a guy.
But once he fell out of the first round, what did it matter? What are you trying to sink?
Well, you're trying to get as much value as you possibly could. Because for me, when I watched Spencer Rattler, I thought he was a lock to be a 3rd-round pick, especially after Bo Nix was taken 12th overall. So the fact that the Saints were able to get him in the 5th round was good value, even though I think he is probably like an Andy Dalton level player. Not great, but pretty solid. And at this point, I'll take solid for the Saints. But
Andy Dalton won a lot of division titles, got to the playoffs a lot now. I mean,
yeah, I don't think they're. I just think he's that level of a player. They're obviously different styles, right? Spencer, I think, has a little bit more juice in the arm. I believe Spencer has just a little bit, more mobility, and obviously Andy's just a bigger guy. But I'll take that. I really will. And he's an adult. And something else I like, Blake, is quarterbacks like Spencer Rattler, who went from the best quarterback situation you could be in, which was prime Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma, to one of the worst in South Carolina with offensive lines that were so bad. And I think playing behind bad offensive lines made him play quicker with more processing speed. And I really liked watching him. It was a lot of fun seeing him try to overcome a lot of obstacles that were in front of him. So I think he's going to be solid.
All right. If we're going to talk the Saints, we got to talk about their arch rival, the Falcons.
Oh.
Carter, I am not saying that Michael Penix Jr. is a bad quarterback at all. I see people trying to justify now him going in the top 8. Stop. He is not a top 8 quarterback. Carter, he's one Brussels sprout away from having both knees replaced again. All right? We are talking about a guy that's had massive – now, I get that he led his team to a national title. I like him.
Oh, yeah.
Top 8 pick. And then Sean Payton's going to do Sean Payton things. Bo Nix at 12. Good Lord. What am I missing with some of these quarterbacks? I think that they reached more than Pat Beverly in a playoff game.
I like that, P. Bev. Look, here's what I'll say. I'm actually not totally opposed with taking another, quarterback at 8 if Kirk Cousins is so heavily injured. I just wouldn't do that if you just handed him $150 gazillion and you piss him off. He wasn't really involved in that process. When you could piss off your entire locker room. I also just don't believe in Michael Penix as a pro prospect, Blake. There was just too many games last year where, yes, he was unbelievably dominant. The Texas game was a Joe Burrow level playoff game. He really was that good in that game. Mm-hmm. But then you had the Michigan game. And then you
Texas
had
secondary is horrible.
Yes.
So it's not like he was going against an elite secondary, but he goes against Michigan, and then guess what?
And then he had some other games where he was just bad. And the thing that kept driving me crazy during the draft process was, there was people that were talking about Jaden Daniels and his elite supporting cast. And it's true. Jaden had an elite supporting cast. He has 2 offensive tackles that are slated to go in the first round next year. And obviously Malik BTJ, a great play caller and all of that. But Jaden was dominant in every single game last year that he played outside of one half versus Florida State. Michael Penix had, I would consider, potentially an even better supporting cast than what LSU gave Jaden Daniels, right? If you really look at it, especially if you factor in the Pac-12 defenses that he was going up against, he had 3 receivers selected in the first round. He had an offensive tackle that went in the first round. Then he had another offensive lineman go in the second round. Then he had a play caller, Blake, who got hired to call plays for the Seahawks. How many college guys jump from OC to the collegiate level to the NFL level?
The only one that you could say that's been drafted in the first round would be Burrow. That would be the last one that an OC type of guy that flipped that way.
Yes, and Burrow and Jaden were dominant in every single time that they played. They were the freaking dude on the field. That is not the case for Michael Penix. I do think he's an overrated NFL draft prospect, and I would have never selected him there. I do think Bo Nix is also overvalued. I see what the Saints were trying to do. And Blake, I'm just going to stand by how I felt around this draft process, and it's not the popular thing to do. I think the guys that went number 1 and number 2 were far and away the best 1 and 2 guy than everyone else. I think there was a gap between those 2 guys and Drake May, but we'll see how it plays out.
You got to be patient with Drake May. You can't just throw him out there. I wouldn't mind if I think Jacoby Brissett is back in New England. I would let Jacoby play and start the entire year, God willing, and then give Drake a full year to get ready there. Carter, 6 LSU guys got drafted. 2 defensive linemen went to the same team in Jacksonville. I'm not going to go player by player.
Yeah.
What did you think of the top 4? Obviously, we had talked a lot about Jaden Daniels, so I'll go Malik, and I will go Bryant Thomas Jr., their landing spots. What did you think about them and where they landed?
Yeah, so Blake, as you know, the thing I take the most serious is LSU guys going into the NFL. It's my favorite thing to do, right? It's a crapshoot, right? There's so many different things. I don't care that Malik Neighbors went to a terrible situation in New York. He's the best player in the NFL draft. He's still going to be a multiple-time Pro Bowler. If he is still healthy, he is going to be transcendent in the NFL. He is as good as pretty much any NFL draft prospect at LSU that I've personally ever watched. I feel he's still going to be great. BTJ, I think, was a really good scenario, right? He's a lower key personality. He didn't have the allure of being a top first-round pick. The Jaguars were able to trade back and still select the player that they were going to take at 17. And he's going to get to be in a wide receiver room, Blake, with some good complementary pieces, right? Christian
Kirk. Yeah.
Yeah. And Christian Kirk's more of a slot guy. Evan Ingram is more of a slot guy. All he's got to beat out is Gabe Davis, who's never really been great as a true outside guy. I think that's a really good spot for BTJ. And look, Blake, I sent you the data on this. This is just a fact, even though I am personally a fan of this player and I collect his cards, and he had a lot of bad luck with his health. Mason Smith, according to the mock draft consensus rankings, is one of the biggest reaches of the past decade in the NFL draft. That is not me saying this. I'm fine with where he went. That's what the NFL drafters say. And Blake, the mock draft consensus has been unfreaking believably accurate when it comes to evaluating prospects. So
you think what you're saying? Correct me if I'm hearing you correctly. What you're saying is, based off this model, he could be a bust.
It's he's going to have to overcome a lot of historical data.
Carter, can I be real with you? And let's use him as an example. Unfortunate. I really don't think, and I'm being dead honest when I say this, I really don't know how much scouts watch football.
Oh, a lot of them don't. They just watch the highest upside clips, and they look at things like recruiting ranking. They look at things like your absolute best peak performance, and they can get a little carried away with that. You know, Mason Smith, Blake, towards the end of the year, one thing that really did help him out, he played
a lot better.
He was ridiculous versus A&M in Wisconsin in the game's biggest moments. So he deserves a lot of credit for that. It's just it's working against him. It's via Austin Gale of Pro Football Focus and Arif Hassan. He is one of the 30 biggest draft day reaches, according to their research. But I'm cheering for Mason. I hope so. I have a ton of his autographs over here. And if he could stay healthy and everything works according to plan, it could work out. I love where Wingo landed. Jefferson, I also like where he landed as well.
He fell?
No, not at all. Injuries was something I heard from scouts. I heard you mention that.
Yeah, he had a really couple bad medicals.
Yeah, and look, I know what a lot of people would say. Hey, well, he played in the last game versus Wisconsin. He looked good, but that was one game, right? You know, same thing was true with Terrace Marshall. You know, Terrace Marshall had a bunch of medical red flags from the scouts, even though his final
which is playing out now.
Right, which his final year at LSU, he was healthy, right? Just because you were good in your final game.
Well, he didn't even play a full year.
Yeah,
he quit. I mean, he fully quit on the team. I mean,
yeah, he opted out. So I'm a little worried about that, but I think going to the Lions is going to be a good spot for him. Dan Campbell is the underdog story. That's Wingo, right? 3-star recruit. So hopefully it works out in Detroit for him.
All right. let me paint a picture for you. I want your thought on this because I think, Carter, it's a very crucial week for LSU when it comes to the interior of that defensive line in the portal on the team that is going to be in 2024. Carter, you had 3 players got drafted at that position, the interior of the defensive line. Carter, they got to make moves this week. If they don't make moves this week, you're in trouble. Now, I do think that they are, so I don't want to I'm not telling LSU fans to hit the panic button, but I'm trying to be as realistic as I can here.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Williams here, the TCU DT, big number 52. Played in a bunch of these kind of weird 3-man kind of fronts, which is what he's not going to totally be asked to do at LSU. I like him. Like, I really like Aiden Huntington, the guy that just entered from ULM. Yeah. So he just entered right when your show began.
Well, let me ask you this. He's more of an edge guy, right?
Yeah, he's one of these thicker kind of edge players.
Oh, thick like a bowl of oatmeal. Okay.
Yeah, I like my football players thick, man. Every position. I gotta have it, man. This is a man's game. These are huge human beings running at fast.
There's just so many different things you could have said. There's so many different things you could have said.
Put it on t-shirts. Carter likes his football players thick. That's just life, man. I thicker than cold peanut butter. That's what you gotta have, baby. And Aiden, and he's got some bend too. I like him at ULM. I watched him for a little bit before I jumped on here. But yeah, he's like one of these 260 to 280 kind of guys. He's not a 300, 320 kind of guy, but I think he could play some 3-ish tech in some passing sense. But
they're going to have to completely revamp on what they do on the defensive line. I just don't think you got enough. Right. You're going to have to go to some odd man fronts. You're going to have to be very multiple. Look, and Carter, I've been abused by this, by me saying this. I don't think you're going to get 2 of the big 4. Sorry. I just don't. It's not. And I don't think it's Bo Davis's fault as everybody's tried to paint it here. I mean, this has got to be a Brian Kelly thing as much and Blake Baker thing as much as it is Bo Davis.
Yeah, it's an issue, Blake. It really, really, really is. But I don't want to keep saying it because you and I have both been saying it, and everyone's been saying it at this point. It does stink right now, especially since Blitty went to Auburn, and that's kind of
Isaiah Rakes. I think Isaiah Rakes is the sleepiest pickup for a team that's out there.
It's a good defensive line name too, Isaiah Rakes.
What if he played baseball?
That would be even better. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, he should have played baseball. He would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. Look, we'll talk about them in a lot because baseball season's starting to wind down to some capacity. I mean, in 2 months it'll be pretty much over with here. But I will just say this: you got to have a big week. Bottom line, okay. And if you don't, I don't want to hear anything from LSU fans. I'm going to continue to stay on my pedestal of where I think that you're going to be, and they're going to have to get over it because I don't think you're better than Ole Miss. Talent be talent. I really don't. I mean, you're going to have to outcoach. You're going to have to out-scheme. And I think that you can, which makes LSU even more dangerous. Right? Like, I do think you can out-scheme teams. I really do think Blake Baker could out-scheme Lane Kiffin.
That's big. I go back to this.
Do you want to know why I think that?
Let's hear it.
I went back and watched 4 of Lane Kiffin's biggest games, even going back to LSU in 22. Carter, there's something about Lane in play calling in big games where he folds.
Okay, I'm listening.
He's 1-5 in his last top 10 matchups. His play calling is not good enough. Just throwing that out there.
Here's what I'll say.
And I love Lane.
Yeah, no.
I love Lane. I'm just saying.
His first 15 are normally pretty good scripted.
Oh, hell yeah. Ask LSU in 22 how good it is. Shit, ask LSU in 23 how good it is.
Yeah, right. And then, his guys have a tendency to get out athlete, and you could just see him get frustrated with some of his play calling. Right. Something else for Blake is he will have a bye week before that game this year. And Ole Miss will be playing like the 5th game in 5 weeks. So I keep going back to this LSU schedule. It sets up really nicely for them. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, a couple more, and then I'll get you out of here. Carter Bryant joining us now. Believe in Saints, BLEAVNIN Saints. Carter, we don't normally talk about this kind of stuff in the segment we do with you, but I'm going to make an exception to my rule because I am not the guy that likes to come on here and talk about O-line versus D-line in these camp settings. I don't like going up against and talking about 7-on-7 camps. I think they're jokes. Okay, I really do think that they're jokes. Put the pads on and then shut your mouth. That's what I'm old school. However, there are exceptions to this rule. Bryce Underwood is the exception to that rule. Carter, I'm going to ask you the question that I think LSU fan wants to know and hear. Do we have a commitment from a quarterback in Bryce Underwood that's generational?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards saying yes. I don't like to use the word.
Okay, let me rephrase the word. Is he
transcendent? Yes.
Transcendent. That's a good word.
Yes. So like generational, I that's like
you go like Burrow.
Yeah, like that's like Tiger Woods level,
Fair, very fair. That's the wrong word by me.
No, that's fine. But he could be. I mean, look, Blake, in my interview with him not too long ago, I show him completing a 15-yard behind the back pass in practice. I mean, some of the stuff is Mahomesian, right? It's insane. And I did watch a decent amount of the 7-on-7 setting. What I would say though, Blake, is I'm fully with you on the defensive line one-on-one drills. I think that's so overrated. I think it's so. There's so. I was an undersized defensive lineman. That was my best drill, and I would be the first to tell you that it's not like how the games are at all.
Ever.
Where I would push back just a little bit is I could make a case that 7-on-7 is becoming more and more like actual real football because you can't hit the QBs anymore. You can't hit people anymore, really.
The problem I have with them, Carter, is simple. Bryce Underwood will not take a hit. In a game, he will take a hit. How does he – and this is the thing about Jaden Daniels that went unnoticed. Oh, he gets hit hard. Well, some bitch kept getting up and continue to kick your ass. So, again, I don't want to overreact to Bryce Underwood. It's very hard for me not to overreact to him right now because, Carter, he's making – and I'm just going to say it, and you know how critical I can be on saying stuff like this when other people do it. I'm breaking my rule, and he better live up to it because I hate breaking my own rule. I'm blown away. I'm blown away by some of the throws that he's making. Let me give an example. I think he threw a touchdown to Francis from Carr. He looks off the safety, and then his footwork was perfect to come back to the drag route over a defender for a touchdown. It's not the arm talent. It was the footwork that was elite for me. And I'm like,
oh yeah.
And you heard, I think it was Bud Elliott of 247 Sports was like, Jesus Christ. And I quote tweeted, it's a Jesus Christ for me at the end, because that's exactly what I said. I just think, Carter, he is by far, because of the position he plays, he could be the best high school recruit that this team has ever seen.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. I mean, if you just go by prospect rankings and the fact that he plays a quarterback position, he is the best LSU prospect of all time. Now, I don't think anything will ever top the Leonard Fournette hype, but still, he is the best prospect, objectively speaking, all the way down to the decimal point.
Well,
of
and we
all
had to
time.
wait for Lenny to commit too. So like,
Right,
the
exactly.
hype just continued to build. Let me ask you this question about the 7-on-7 too. Two things. Number one, does it solidify that this is over with him in recruiting because he's with LSU guys? That's the first question. But number two, are we 1,000% sure that Harlan Berry's in the right position?
Yeah, he looked good at receiver, right?
I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
I heard somebody, I saw a clip, I don't know who posted it, but one of the scouts that was there literally said, and I'm quoting, "Good googly moogly" is the whitest thing I've ever heard. I heard all weekend was good googly moogly. And I heard Mel Kiper for 3 straight days. Carter, I think that this offensive class might be one of the best, if not. I mean, I am hyping it up, but they're showing it. How much do you like that he's already with these LSU guys getting some reps?
yeah, Blake, I'm not the recruiting insider. It's just not what I do. But I did get to spend a good bit of time with the dad and obviously Bryce Underwood. So his dad, Jay Underwood, and they're moving to Baton Rouge. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you, right? Of course, it's never over until pen to paper.
Correct.
I would be perplexed, jaw to the ground, if he is not an LSU Tiger. Of course, boosters can change your life in an instant if they really, really, really want you to go to some other school. He wants to be at LSU, playing for Team Flow, wearing the purple and gold. I would be very shocked if this doesn't happen, and we'll see.
How do you like him being with the LSU guys already getting reps?
Oh, it's great. It's great. And I'm with you on the Harlan Berry thing. I mean, he did look really good as a receiver. And look, going back to what you were saying about the 7-on-7 stuff, two things I'll say is Malik's best film was in 7-on-7 settings. He was probably the best 7-on-7 receiver I've ever seen. I mean, he dominated in these camp settings. So there could be some signal in that. And the second thing is Bryce Underwood is within the framework of the play quarterback, right? He does a really good job staying within the structure of how a play is designed.
I agree.
It's unbelievable. And he and I talked about that off camera for a while, how much he likes that, because he's athletic enough to do and have whirling Derbyshire, Johnny Manziel kind of plays. And he does have those kinds of plays, don't get me wrong. But a lot of his plays are, okay, I look right, it's not open, I'm working left. And it's not just 7-on-7 where you only have a certain amount of time. That's actually his high school tape as well. So he's truly special, and we're very lucky to get to witness this.
By the way, DeCorian Moore wasn't even there.
Yeah, and we'll see how things go with that. I
feel all right. I feel all right.
I believe you. You're at the biggest day of his life.
Look, he's still getting recruited. But one thing I didn't ask you, and this is gonna be the last thing before I get you out of here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cortez Hankton have a day, or have a draft. Carter, I mean, let me ask you this question about Cortez Hankton. So you have a coach that's on staff that had 6 guys drafted, the most in any position group, one position group in NFL history. There's like 17 coaches that have 5, right? He had 6. Are we legitimately looking at one of the biggest up-and-comers in Cortez Hankton?
Yeah, so when he came over, I had a Georgia source reach out to me, say, Carter, you'll be a head coach in the next 5 years. And that's probably
disagree. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, that'll probably happen at some point. There's a reason why he gets some NFL interviews, even though he's never really called a play before.
I mean, Carter, let me stop you. He was the second interview for Sean McVay.
Yeah, I mean, it's astonishing what he's done. But yeah, a Georgia source told me, Carter, he will be not only a head coach soon, but a great head coach. Now, that's not what I want to happen. I don't think any LSU fan wants that to happen, but he had a big draft. And Blake, it was a big draft for Brian Kelly, having the first offensive lineman be his, and then all his other assistants.
He had, of the top 10 picks, he had 3 of them.
Yeah, three of the top 6. So, I mean, that's obviously really good. Bo Davis had a massive draft with the first DT selected and the first,
first 2. No, first 2 of the first 3.
Right. So the first DT and then the first gap-eating nose tackle, which are 2 similar but different things. And then, of course, Blake Baker had a killer draft. Blake Baker and Jake Olson.
Yeah, all of their players were defensively. By the way,
right.
The best undrafted free agent pickup. You want to know who you want to know who got it? Speaking of Mizzou, the Rams and Cody Schrader.
I knew you were going to go Schrader. You love Schrader, man.
I fucking love Cody Schrader.
Cody Schrader.
You know what I'm going to do? Let me tell you what I'm going to do, because I'm going to take the Bengals and obviously the Commanders. I'm trading for Cody Schrader in Madden. Day 1, pick 1. I'll take a first round. They can take a first round pick. I love that kid.
And he went to the 49ers, Cody Schrader.
Oh, I thought he went to the Rams.
No, that was your other man crush, Blake Corum, that went to the Rams.
Oh, God. Ugh.
Blake Corum, but Kyron Williams is the RB1, another one of Brian Kelly's guys. But
oh, God, why do these teams keep drafting so good?
Well, look, the thing that sucks for Cody Schrader is the 49ers historically have been not so great at picking running backs. But still, I like Cody Schrader.
He went to the 49ers. Could you imagine McCaffrey and Schrader in the backfield? Yuck.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Cody Schrader in the pros. I really don't.
That's Carter the Power Bryant, even though he's got a question here for him. Don't you ever talk shit about Cody Schrader again. Out the door, what were your thoughts on the Saints picks?
I like Kool-Aid McKinstry, and I think he has a good shot of being the best player, period, in this class. Fuaga is a guy that I didn't like as much as some of the others. I'm not on like the same level of a Joel Delone. I don't watch as many prospects as he does. I thought there were
addicted to it. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of time to look at each and every one of them. I wasn't as high on Fuaga as others, but I know smarter people loved him more than I loved him, so I was fine with that. And we'll see how these other pieces work out. But most notably, Spencer Rattler. I just released a podcast on I Believe in Saints, so check it out.
All right. Thank you for being flexible, my man.
All right, buddy. Cheers. Go Ben.
Well, again, canceled.
I
But
got canceled, but
yeah,
still go.
we'll see it. We'll see it on Wednesday. Hey, dude, get your cards ready, because I mean, you're going to be selling these baseball cards that this kid's going to be making left and right. Okay, you're going to be our card man.
All right, we'll see it, bud. Cheers.
Cheers. That's Carter the Power Bryant joining us as he does every Monday. Thank you for rescheduling on that. Going to take a 30-second break, finish up with some LSU baseball. Stay with us.
Rufino and Joe Show is brought to you by Home Field Apparel, which is the best, without a doubt, premium collegiate apparel brand that is out there. They have over 150 different colleges that you can choose from, whether you're an Illinois fan or a Rutgers fan, maybe you're an LSU fan like Blake, or maybe you're an Alabama fan. Whatever it is, even Idaho, they have so many different designs for so many different football programs that I can guarantee you're going to find some great stuff to help root for your favorite team. I've already gotten my Notre Dame stuff. Blake has his LSU stuff. Make sure you head on over to homefieldapparel.com to check out your team's collection of clothing apparel that they have on the website. And when you do so, when you check out, make sure you use promo code RufinoJoe to get 15% off your order. That is RUFFINO, Rufino Joe. Head on over to homefieldapparel.com and get your college gear today.
Let's talk a little bit about LSU baseball before we get out of here. So listen, for me, this weekend had a lot of good to it. Look, a really bad team in Auburn that you faced that you're able to win the series over. The problem that I just can't shake at the current moment is that you had the ability to sweep. And I know baseball's a funny sport, but it was one that you really needed because, as we mentioned, Texas A&M, you will face this upcoming weekend. And they're the number one team in the country for a lot of good reasons. They got a lot of guys that they recruited, developed, and some guys that they got from the portal that are really good. Guys, I hate to be that guy because I make fun of those guys often on the show. It is the biggest weekend of this year's LSU baseball. Because if you're able to find a way to win this weekend and take the series versus Texas A&M, even though I'm not very confident that you will, not that you can, but that you will, then you start feeling a little bit better that you can beat an Ole Miss in a weekend. You could beat Alabama in a weekend series. But right now you're sitting in a situation where your season is on the line. And every game that you play, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, your season is on the line. And I thought that Sunday, you had it on Friday, you had it on Saturday. Josh Pearson comes up, gets the big hit to walk you off in a series where Auburn was in a lot of the same situation that you were. I look at this team and say, man, you had the chance with not necessarily season on the line necessarily, but you had a chance to give yourself a little bit of relief. And I know that me only talking about Sunday and looking at Sunday goes away from how good Gage's jump was on Friday night, how good Luke Holman was on Saturday, and how good in those two games your pitching staff was. You did a lot of really good things on Friday and Saturday. But you come in on Sunday, finally Cade Anderson gets his first start in the SEC, and I will just be real with you, a lot of bad luck, and not even really bad luck, bad game planning. I mean, it's one thing to do a shift with no outs or one out. Guys, you got two outs. And I thought the kid performed well. He should have given up a run. And that's very unfortunate for him. But even though that happened, you had the ability, bases loaded, you only get a run. No outs, you only get a run. It's not good enough. And I think that Jay is obviously to a point where he's more than frustrated with how things are going. So I look at this team and say, I think guys like Bear Jones is getting a lot better. Some of the digs that he had at first, that backhanded dig that he had on Sunday was really nice. I think the freshman Ashton Larson, Stephen Milam, now that these guys are getting more at-bats and getting more reps, they're coming into their own. But when you have a guy like Tommy Tanks up in crucial situations on Saturday and Sunday, and he's unable to get you the hit that you need, even though he had a really good weekend, it's frustrating because I don't know if I see a killer instinct from this team, and that is desperately unfortunate. All right. Thank you for joining us earlier in the day. I'm assuming we will be live in 2 hours on Ruffino and Joe Show, so you can come watch us there as well. Until then, my name is Blake Ruffino. This is Are You Serious Sports. We'll see y'all again tomorrow. Y'all have a good one. Peace.